welcome back to my channel. It's been a minute since I uploaded anything here. Between school, life, work, adjusting to a new place, rounding off the semester, I had a lot of exams, so I didn't get a chance to post. And then even after my exams, I just needed the break to rest, to recuperate, to just try to get myself back. But like I mentioned in my last video, I did have content I'd been hoarding, and I said I was going to be releasing them once in a while, so you get to see more content as soon as I get the chance, basically. Then yeah, that's it. This particular video, not to make this intro too long, is basically to show you how I dyed my hair at home. I locked my hair in December, and when I locked hair, I initially dyed it blonde, and then the color faded out to sort of like brownish honey blonde kind of, and I decided to touch it up because I haven't dyed my hair in like 9 months, and I decided to touch it up. Initially I was going to go with the same honey blonde brown dye to just like lighten up what it was, but I decided to just change things up, to switch things up and go with a different color. And so I used the Adore 85 dye that's in burgundy. It's a burgundy color, and I think I really like the results. I don't know if you can see it in the sun right now, but it looks really great in the sun and out of the sun. Out of the sun it looks darker, in the sun it looks a little bit more purplish, but the color came out great. And I will just show you what technique I use to dye my hair at home without ruining my locks and without bleach. So just keep watching to see. Bye guys. Also, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, send this video to someone who needs to see it, and just show some love by commenting down below. Thank you guys. Keep watching. So before the whole process, I had put my locks in cornrows earlier to stretch them out, because I had washed them after taking out my braids and they were really shrunken, so I had put them in cornrows to stretch them out. And here I was just taking out the cornrows and packing my hair in sections so I could wash my hair. So after packing my hair in 4 sections, I washed my hair. I didn't film the washing because I was alone at this point. I washed the hair and continued. So I had initially done a strand test with one of my locks while it was wet, and I didn't like how the color came out. So I decided to towel dry the locks and air dry them to when they were almost completely dry before actually doing the dyeing, because I found out that the dye stayed better or clung better to my dried locks than to my locks when they were wet. So an important process you should not skip if you're trying to dye your locks, especially if you think that the dye is going to get to your roots, is using Vaseline, or in this case I used argan oil, a thick barrier liquid, which can be oil, can be petroleum jelly. Usually petroleum jelly is the best to use, or gel, but argan oil worked for me in this case. I know some people also suggest using coconut oil around your forehead, your ears, and the back of your head to prevent the dye from staining your skin, because you would see as you dye your hair you might not be able to avoid accidents where like some of the dye gets onto your skin, especially around your forehead, your ears, and the back of your head. So just having that barrier oil there just prevents the dye from pigmenting your skin. And so to dye my hair, I parted it in 4 sections again, just like when I was going to wash, and I went through each section one after the other. Always make sure to dye your hair from the tips and not from the roots. I learned this after watching several YouTube videos before even attempting to dye my hair, and then in the process I realized it was a lot easier and it came out a lot better when you started dyeing from the tips. If you feel 4 sections are too large for you to handle on your own, you could always part your hair in smaller sections so that you can go through every section properly. And I used a mirror. That was what I was looking into when my face was turned. I was using a mirror every step of the way to make sure that, especially at the back of my hair, I was getting the dye on correctly. And at some point I had my roommate come in to help me for the parts where I couldn't really see myself. So having someone around may also be a huge help. So I took it section by section. Initially, I was doing one lock after the other, but I realized that that was taking too much time, and I wanted to get the dye spread evenly with the timing correctly. So if I was doing it one lock after the other, it would have just taken too much time. So I started doing it like whole sections, just putting the dye on like whole sections of the locks, but still maintaining the segments. And I actually got through the entire head of hair in like 10 minutes. So pro tip, please use a glove when you're dyeing your hair because the dye would stain everything it touches. Having newspapers around the area you're dyeing your hair, which may be your bathroom floor and your sink or your living room, wherever you want to dye, having plastic bags on the floor and newspapers may also prevent a mess. So that's one thing that you should note. Use plastic gloves and cover the area with newspapers and plastic bags to prevent the dye from staining a lot of things, especially your surfaces. Like I said, my roommate came to help me with the areas at the back of my head that I may not have covered properly. So after we had completely covered all the parts of the hair with dye, I then proceeded to cover my hair with a plastic wrap at first and then a processing cap. And just as an extra precaution, I put a nylon bag or a plastic bag, whatever you call it, over my head to for extra heat, basically. I initially checked the hair at 15 minutes and I was not satisfied, so I let it sit for a bit. And I finally washed out the dye after I had let it sit for around 40 minutes. Then I rinsed the dye off my hair. I rinsed the dye off my hair and then I shampooed it until I felt like it was clean enough and the water was as clear as possible. And this was the final result after washing the hair and, drying it a bit. So this was what it looked like after I was done.